Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to another episode of the Hog Talk Podcast, episode 3 of off season. We're live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of Believe and Buzz Radio Networks, where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Porter Hayes, and alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. And we're also brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or even unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. And again, like I said, we are in episode 3 of our off-season series, summer series, however you want to call, these summer episodes. And this is brought to you by Vinyl Exteriors. Looking for a new roof, replacement windows, vinyl siding, or custom doors? It pays to have an expert on your side. Vision Exteriors offers quality products at a fair price with honest advice guarantee. With offices in Fort Smith and McAllister, Oklahoma, you can reach them today for a free quote at 479-397-4770. We start off the show like we have last couple of weeks, College World Series talk, and it was funny that, College World Series happened. Tennessee wins their first national championship, and what does Texas do? They do Texas things. They end up stealing the A&M's coach, who the day before was adamant. He moved his family, done all this thing, built his house from the bricks up, and next day pulled I guess you could kind of say a Nick Saban, or, even there's been Best of Arkansas Sports was talking about Arkansas fans are quick to judge, but look what Bobby Petrino did, so, and you can, rightfully so. We said that last week, but, when you've seen the news of a coach who was playing for a national championship, won game one, it ain't like they got beat 2 games in a row. You won game one, lose a national championship, and then you turn heel and go to one of your rivals a day after losing the national championship. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, initially, I think that I was caught off guard, but everything was really caught off guard because of the comments he made after losing the national championship. He was just so adamant on, this is where I'm staying, I left where I'm from, or left the family, whatever it was, and I'm here, I'm going to be here. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I want to be. And then to, just up and go to Texas in less than 24 hours, and especially to come at the reporter calling him selfish for asking that kind of question. Yeah. I'm just like, you've just made a complete fool of yourself. And, now we're seeing more of like the players coming out with their issues and concerns with him. Last night I was asked a question if I thought if Arkansas could get any of the A&M transfers. And at first I'm like, well, I could see some of them following suit to Texas. But now after the stuff starting to come out today, I'm like, these guys are not going to go there. They don't want to play for him. If anything, I feel like a lot of them would stay put just to prove, some loyalty to A&M. But, there's already a couple of them in the portal. It's one of those things. He made himself look like a fool, if anybody.
Oh, yeah. And I talked to a good buddy of mine, and it's like, he said, well, he had to say that. He could say he's not going to take the job and then turn heel and do take the job. Well, whatever. You get criticized a little bit. It was exactly like what you pointed out. It was the adamant calling the reporter selfish. Okay, that would be like, Sam Pittman calling Andrew Hutchison pathetic, and then the next day going to Florida or whatever, and it got me really thinking, if your own people are asking you these questions, they're not asking these questions just to ask it. There's already inside stuff going on. There's already stuff that's been, leaked or whatever. Because one, why would a media outlet from the losing team, your team who lost, bring up that question when you're yourself? You've got to be somewhat tied to the fan base. You've got to be invested in that program. And you just don't think that would be a question you would ask to somebody, because again, you're like, hey man, what went wrong game 2 and 3, blah, blah, blah. But no, we asked him because he knew already more than likely, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And, I know we've talked about like, when do we think the talk started? We're looking at, okay, Texas fired their coach on Monday. Did they start talking at that point? Did Texas reach out to get put feelers out, while he's at Omaha doing all this? Like, when did it really start? Because that it did not happen over the course of those 12 to 18 hours after that press conference. For that to be asked, it was already out there in the realm of possibility that something was going to happen if they were to lose. So then, like we talked about, we sit here and players can't do this during the season, but
Exactly.
It's okay for coaches to. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just, the hypocrisy of it all is pretty insane.
It's illegal. It's not just that it's shunned upon. It's illegal. You cannot tamper with an athlete while they're still on a roster. And, it goes to show, again, Logan's point, this was on the works on the way to Omaha. I mean, you can't deny that because we know how contract negotiations go. If they would have been talking and then say he got hired next week, we can kind of put a timeline of, okay, they started talking to him after the game. I mean, in all honesty, that's another like slap in the face. Whether you hired him now or next week, to really do that the day after, to really do that is really and look, I've said my piece, what I've said about, the karma and stuff for those two fans and all that when it comes to, but when you think about the players, and another thing I brought up was I flipped the script. If that would have been a college quarterback losing the national championship game, and then say Ohio State, CJ Stroud loses the national championship, and then the very next day he goes to Michigan, what would be the repercussions of that?
We know as fan base, I mean, that player would be ripped apart by the fans.
Exactly.
In which Texas A&M coach is being ripped apart, but he's being ripped apart for how he handled things, what he said. But, the players, they're going to be gone after a hell of a lot more than a coach is.
And another part is kind of just not, I guess I 100% speculating, but you have to think, okay, did any of the players catch wind of this? If reporters are catching wind of this and asking the question, you win game 1. And I'm not saying this would have changed the outcome of the College World Series, but it's hard not to think that if a player caught wind of this or players caught wind of this, hey man, he's gone. He's gone. What does that do for the team? These kids that sacrificed all season long, and you're going to do that during the look, one of the most prestigious national championships to win. I know the college football playoff, but look, it means something just to get to Omaha. It means something just to get to the college football playoff. Even in this 12-game expansion, it means something to get there. It means something to make the Final Four or Elite Eight. They hang banners for this stuff. And for them to do that a day after, I think this is the most scumbag thing that can happen. I mean, I don't care who's on his side or whatever. Show some couth, man. Do it next week or do it. I mean, it doesn't make a difference, especially with the transfer portal and stuff. Season's over. You could be contacting these players and doing everything behind the scenes, but just how that happened after his speech and, about his family. Like, I can't say what I want to say because, regulations and bleep shows and all that stuff, but it's like middle finger is kind of what I'll say, because it's just like, you're talking about kids who will never, ever get that chance again, playing for Texas A&M, because you see the exodus of players that are leaving Texas A&M. These are sometimes the kids that will probably never get to witness going to Omaha, and you take that away from them. Not only do they have to, suffer the loss of losing a national championship, and now they lose their coach the next day to your rival. It's again, I understand the era we're in, but it still don't make it that it's not a scumbag thing that he did.
Yeah. And sitting here looking at it, we talk about, did the players catch wind? Maybe even did they check out a little bit or something? We saw firsthand what happened when a locker room catches wind of a coach that's checked out in the basketball team in Eric Musselman.
Very good point. Very good point.
We went through an entire season of a checked out team, checked out locker room, checked out on the court for the most part. I mean, so it was one of those things that I'm sure a lot of those kids, I mean, on top of being pissed off, are just flat out hurt. Like, we're in the biggest game or biggest series of our lives. Because let's be honest, I mean, you have an even slimmer chance to then, go to the MLB, make World Series, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you just cost them probably the biggest sports moment of their lives.
It's hard enough just to get to the big show. How many greats have we seen come through Arkansas, and how many of them are legit? Look at Heston Kjerstad, look at Kevin Kopps, look at all these people that are going to the pros and how long it takes them to even get on a team. So yeah, that's the thing, that it's hard enough to even make it to the big show and then go on to win a World Series. And that's professional. That's your adult life. That's the sweetest as it gets. But the high school, you always remember what you did in high school. If you won a state championship for your school, for your hometown, means so much. And then the college, the school you played for 4 years or 3 years or 2, whatever, how long you were there, winning a national championship, it hits different. It hits a different heartstring per se. And I do feel bad for the players, because the fact that my animosity is toward a fan base, not the players. And the players are the ones that, deal with this. It's almost like mom and dad are breaking up. And now the divorce has happened. Now the kids are the only ones that suffer.
And I mean, looking at the quote that came out today from Travis Chestnut, who's one of the A&M players. I mean, this right here kind of says it all. And I applaud him for speaking up, because a lot of times players don't speak on these issues, or they're cautioned to just stay, mum's a word, don't talk about it, whatever. But not once in my career was he a respectable man to me. Chestnut told Travis Brown of the Eagle, I stuck with him because I wanted to be an Aggie and in the SEC, but quite frankly, I didn't stick to him. I stuck to Mike Early and Nolan Kane. Early and Kane, along with former A&M pitching coach Max Weiner, have since joined Schlossnickel's new staff in Austin. So these players are just all around hurt. Mm-hmm. I mean, just brutally hurt.
And now they have a platform. They're able to speak their mind. They have the ability to say what's on their mind now. They can go on Twitter, they can go on Instagram, and we know the negatives of, social media. We know the cancer and the toxicity of it, but sometimes it's like writing in a journal. This is those kids' journal. They're getting to air out to the whole world how they feel about this and how this person did. Yeah, sometimes it might not be true, and people might just be saying things out of anger, but you have to hold everything and look at what these kids are going through. And again, it wasn't just a national championship that was taken away from these kids, or a shot at a national championship. I preface that because, look, I don't want to go into this and take anything away from Tennessee, because they absolutely deserve the national championship. They, won it. And, you think about, and I didn't even really think this deep into it, about the whole Tony Vitello situation of, if him and Dave Van Horn would have never had that argument, never had that beef, would they have still looked at him the way they do now? Or was it be something like a Barry Odom situation? You go to another school, but you still respect that coach for what he did.
Oh, I think that argument amplified everything in that sense, especially from the fans and the media, because it's something that's still that, the picture or the short clip is still played to this day. So it's just one of those, it's used for what it's meant to be used for to make points, whether it's a laughing point or a serious point. But, it's one of those things that it's been a talking point ever since it happened. Vitello got there first, and so now it's just a matter of what's going to happen next. And like I, alluded to a few shows back, with Dave Van Horn's future, who would be the predecessor. I mean, I just look at it like, timing's going to be the key there on what happens for Arkansas afterwards.
Well, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with this Tennessee program. It might be an Ole Miss deal. Win a national championship now, you're not happy with your head coach. Mississippi State. We don't know where the trajectory of that program's going. But it was really cool that Tony Vitello gave Arkansas his props. Like, he was still humble about it, and I think that was a lot of the issue. Was it was a perfect concoction of what he did with Dave Van Horn, and then that whole series just and it went both ways, really, because the cockiness and the arrogance and the bat flips and the attitudes and stuff like that. Look, we want that in sports. Nobody wants to see a clapless game, or you want to see action. You want to see to be entertained, and I like every bit of it. Now, let's be safe about it. I don't like the bat flips that go 10 feet in the air and could potentially come down and injure somebody. I've even seen one kid threw a bat and hit the ump in the head, and middle bat to the head's not ever great at any rate. But that concoction of his antics and then their attitude just made it, and plus you beat them, so it made it all more, we hate them now. It was going to be the biggest. I mean, remember last year, it was supposed to be the biggest series, blah, blah, blah. And now a year later, we're seeing the revitalization of that team and getting their national championship.
It's definitely something that I think is a sour spot for a lot of fans. I mean, I know we talked about it. It's basically like, who are you picking? The lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And, you look at the coaches that have been on staff at Arkansas, and this isn't just go for baseball, but the other sports, the coaches that we've had here that go on, whether it's a head coaching position or whether it's a similar lateral position, but how many coaches were once here that went on to win a national championship or be a part of a national championship, whether they were the head coach or just support staff, whatever. And it sucks to sit there and be, hey, these guys were here, now they're not. Where would we be if they had stayed?
Yeah.
But, in other sports, some of that's coaching regime changes overall. Things just don't fit. It happens. It just, sitting back and looking, it's just one of those what ifs that we think about.
Yeah. And it just goes back to the whole player side of it. This moments like this and times like this where a coach is able to do this, no repercussions. He can go to a new school one day after losing a national championship series. This is why players want to get paid. This is why players can go pick and choose wherever they go, because as their coach who wants to recruit them, hey, come play for us. We'll win a national championship this year. They get to leave to go to another school. Well, the coaches do the same thing. So this is case in point of why now, you can't really say things about the players and their loyalty to a school. They're loyal to that school for 1 year, because look what happened to this coach. And to me, I think in a sense, Texas has got to be like one of the most overrated programs, because I don't see the difference really in the money's at Texas A&M, just like Texas is. You're in the same league. You're playing for a national championship. What was the motive to go? I mean, I don't see why, if it was really that serious, I guarantee you somebody would have paid him the same amount of money to stay at Texas A&M. Hey, look, come back and let's win it all this time. So I don't understand. And again, if it was pointed out like this, the players are talking about against him, it's all about character. He didn't give a shit. He don't care. I'm going to go to Texas. And guess what? You're going to have to play them next year. And I'll tell you what, that's going to be hot series. That in the Kentucky Arkansas game, basketball. I mean, you look at those two and it's going to be nuts.
And one thing he's got to look at too, it's kind of like you've just kind of become enemy number one, not just the SEC now. I mean, the entire country's watching, but typically, we'd be looking at Tony Vitello, Tennessee, they're enemy number one because they just won it all. And this coach has now put himself far and away ahead of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it's not just A&M. He's going to be ridiculed every stadium that they go to. And he's not going to live this
stadium down. That they're right there on top of you. How much money them people going to pay for them dugout seats,
But
I mean,
Texas and I'm just looking at it and I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me because you just took a team to the national championship. Why would you not want to come back to get that step further if you could with that team
yeah.
instead of just leaving them high and dry? And quite frankly, I hope that you took some of your coaching staff, but I hope players see this and see what the other players are saying, and I hope he has a hard time getting a roster.
Oh yeah, and I think actions speak louder than words. I don't think that people have to say anything about it. They seen him for who he was on how he acted, and then turned heel and went to Texas. And again, that is 80% of the problem. It's not that he went or how dare him leave. It was the timing and what he said. That's everything it had to do with. And we just think about that in day to day life. If that would have been a player, it'd have been a totally. I think there would have been more. I mean, just imagine what that kid would go through, and you got the fan base. We see what happens when a normal Arkansas player on normal turns hits the portal. I can only imagine if, let's just throw his name out there, KJ Jefferson playing Notre Dame for the national championship, he loses the game and then he turns and goes to LSU the next day. I mean, that would be kind of the magnitude of it.
Oh, and I'll be curious too to see if everything for the first few days, a week, or whatever, kind of hush hush when it comes to coaching changes, these moves. But we saw it with Coach Calipari, leaving Kentucky to come here. Then obviously a lot of the rumors started coming out from Kentucky side of things on how he left or breaching contracts or whatever they wanted to throw out there. And then, his lawyer was the one to step up, was like, no, these conversations didn't happen the way that y'all are saying it. I'd just be curious to see if we'll get straight answers, whether it's from, I know it's not going to be from the coach. We can already establish that. But from somebody, whether it's somebody on Texas A&M side or whoever, come out and actually let us all know what we're wondering on how the timeline events actually occurred.
Yeah, that'd be a very good point. And I don't know if they fully want to disclose that, because then again, what does that do on the players aspect of it? Now will the players be wanting to, have like an open market, hey, the coach can do it. Players getting paid. Now, can they be? The ramifications of then the ripple effect goes beyond just baseball, because it would happen in everything. And we're seeing this not just the big three. You're seeing, there was talks of, the number one softball pitcher in the country leaving Stanford. And there was and what really got me was there was a lot of speculation about her going to Oklahoma. There was talks about that before she even entered the portal, could officially enter the portal. And then, boy, it went crickets. So, that just tells you, was there some kind of talks going on between players or fans and boosters and these players? It goes on. It does, but it kind of makes it now. Does that change things now that because again, you can't sit there and not say that there was talks the day after, right after he got off of that press conference, and now they wanted to start talking about it.
No, and that's one thing I've wondered for a while now, just because we hear the rumors here and there, and I know it's usually more during football season, but coaches using players basically like, hey, who do you know? Or do you know this person? Reach out to this person. We've heard it from, I've heard it coming from Ole Miss's camp. I've heard it coming from Mizzou's camp. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but essentially these players reaching out to other players.
Oh, I'm sure it happens.
And, you get into the coaches can't do it because we get into tampering, but the players are going to do it. And, I know it's happened across the board in the with the NBA and stuff, but those players have at least been investigated to an extent on how much communication they had with another player during the season or during these, more or less dead times for the leagues, when it's one of those things I don't think we'll ever necessarily get an answer. I think that they'll potentially, we'll see rule changes to try to combat it, but nothing's ever going to fix it, because you can't govern X amount of players on who they're talking to when they're talking to them.
Exactly.
You just can't do it.
it's like putting a piece of gum on a broken dam. I mean, you could try to govern it, you can make your laws, but how are you going to try to enforce that? There is no way. You don't have enough people, manpower to sit there and monitor what is being said, who's saying to who. I mean, you would damn near have to just again, you know, stop someone's freedom of speech for, well, you can't be friends with these people until this. I mean, there's no way to do that. That's just morally, you know, you can't do that to kids or anybody. But you know, it's one of those things. More will come of this. I'm sure by Monday we'll have more on this story coming on. But we're going to move on to a lighter note. We're talking about EA Sports 25. Adam, you showed me what you've done in preparations for the game. Went out and bought a new console for the game coming out in less than a month. Pretty hyped out. And now we're seeing rankings and snippets. And what do you think? And this is going to be the question of the day tomorrow. Fans that are listening get a precursor of what the question is. What do you think it was going to be worse every year? The preseason watch list or these EA Sports rankings that they come out with? Which ones would be most annoying, I should say?
So it's hard to say. Like right now, seeing these rankings that EA has put out for the game, they're pretty terrible because looking at some of them, like I think it was, I forget which team. I know Colorado was one of the teams, but two of the teams they had in the top 25 of these offensive rankings, I think, were like 90th and 92nd or something nationally in offense. And I'm like, but y'all put them in the top 25. You know, I just laugh at those things because I'm like, this is y'all can't be serious. And I guarantee you, so initially that's what we're going to get. These are going to be the rankings, but I guarantee that that's going to change, you know, first week of the season. You know, we're going to get updates and, you know, it's going to be completely changed. But the first one that came out was the top 25 toughest stadiums on the game. You know, Arkansas came in at 23. And, you know, there's a lot of people going back and forth on that, but you got to they're taking the historic side to it. You know, they're taking into the past, and I get it. I forget who put out the tweet, but I saw one that was just like, you know, Arkansas should be number one because it's hard enough for us to win there. You know, essentially, like, I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean,
so yeah, you know, it's fun. I look at that side because from what I saw on some of the video, like the stadiums that are tough, like it's not. We saw, you know, had a taste of it in years past with the your controller vibrating in the screen, but it looked it looked like, you know, 10 times what it used to be on the video I saw a day or two ago of when the crowd is into it, you know, roar of the stadium.
That one time with the Rumble Sticks, yeah. But you know what I wish they would do? And this is more so on the PlayStation platform. And if they would change the remote control for Xbox. Well, there was a console a long time. Well, I say a long time, 20 years ago, Sega Dreamcast had a console that had a screen in the middle. And I think they should do that for a sports, your playbook. You put your playbook in the screen of your controller where you can't see it on the game screen. Cause you know, how many people's peeked at what offense they're running or defense they're running. They're trying to say, okay, they're picking this play. I'm going to go over here with it. You put the game, your card or whatever, your playbook in the screen, that because PlayStation's got that little blank spot where you could easily put a screen there. But I think it would be fun. Or if for the shooting games, you put your map there. That way you can kind of gauge where you're going, but not other people can see where you're at. I think it would add a degree of difficulty to the game, but it would add a lot of fun to it. You know, what can you do differently with these games? And I think you moving to the controller, because you got your goggles and stuff now. I know you can put some kind of screen where that projects that playbook on that controller.
Then I just would question, like, how big would your controller need to be? Just because
we're getting the same size. That screen be the same size, yeah.
We got some.
We used to play on Game Boys, but we used to play on Game Boys. You know,
I still have one.
We used to play whole games on a Game Boy. So, but I'm just thinking it would be interesting to see if because again, I don't know. Do you remember the Sega Dreamcast?
Yeah.
that controller wasn't that big, and it was just a rectangular little screen there. And it's just a thought that I've always had with when you see people playing Madden against each other, or NCAA against each other, you're always looking at what six, screens they had or what games to try to pick what play. It was almost like the Tecmo Bowl. You only had four plays and you guessed the play. Good luck trying to get out of it. It didn't matter if you had Bo Jackson or not.
Yeah, I'm adjusting to the PS5 because like that blank spot there in the middle, like I was playing Spider-Man 2, and that's actually, used for swiping this way, for swiping that way, for different controls. And I'm like, this is just so random and so new to me because I'm just used to basically, your Xbox One, your Xbox 360 controllers for so long. But I'm having a rough time so far with PlayStation controller.
Well, it was funny you say that. I got one of those mini Nintendos for Christmas, and the PlayStation controllers, Xbox, they got all these buttons and hit sticks, joysticks, and trigger buttons. I handed them a Nintendo controller, up, down, left, right, A, B. Boy, it was like you handed them a book of Braille. Like they didn't realize, and I kind of laughed so hard at my son because he got beat by Joe Glass and Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and I'm like, you're the first person that I could ever remember that got beat by Joe Glass in Mike Tyson's Punch Out. But it's just funny you can hit these buttons and triggers all at the same time. But by God, up, down, left, right, A, B, man, it just rips you up. But I wanted to ask you a question. We were talking about the offense. The top 25 offenses. Did you catch the shade job that Arkansas fans could potentially see at number 21 on that list? You got the list pulled up?
I don't.
UCF. Who is the quarterback at UCF?
Well, so that kind of makes me go back to a few weeks back, maybe been longer than that, but I brought up, ESPN had their tiers of basically the quarterbacks and the offensive coordinators, and KJ UCF was one tier above Bobby Petrino and Taylon Green.
Yep.
So that's just another one of those. I mean, they're probably just looking at, Gus Malzahn and a veteran quarterback.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny. I was just looking because they got Oklahoma as the 12th best defense. I mean, come on. You got a Big 12 school in the top 15. I mean, Texas.
You're giving up 30, 40 points a game, if not more. You're having shootouts of, 55, 50. I'm like, your defense is atrocious.
But I know you're geared up for the game. I know everybody else is too. I done told everybody I'm taking a day off from work because that is the same day that the movie Twisters come out. So I got to compromise a little bit. So I'm taking a day off work, play the game during the day, and then we'll go watch the movie at night to make both sides happy on that. But it's I can't wait to play it. Can't wait to see what the special features. But it's funny, everybody talks about what's new. Everybody's going to go into this and play it just like they used to. A lot of people are just going to go right back into the Heisman mode. Like that's my favorite thing, Road to Glory, Heisman mode, and get back into it. So it's going to be fun to watch. I done my stepson, he's got my Xbox right now, and I told him, I said, you better count down the days because July 19th, it's going back up here in the studio.
Yeah, I'm ready to get it. Like I pre-ordered the GameStop's Homecoming Edition. And the only reason I did that was because it comes with a mini locker and a football.
Oh, cool. Is it too late to order that?
No, it's still up.
How much are they?
$150.
Okay. I was going to get that Madden. Didn't they have a Madden NCAA 25 combo?
Yeah, they had like an MVP edition or something that had both games. Yeah. But I was looking at it. I was just like, I mean, that'd be a cool little, locker and football to sit on your desk. And it's like, why not? Because I think they give you back like 70 something bucks in like PlayStation money or or whatever. So it's not like it's all going to just a game and a mini locker. You're getting money back to put into the whatever platform marketplace.
Well, when I found out they were coming out the game, I said, I'll pay $100 easy for it. So 150 is not a stretch, but I still have a copy of the NCAA 14. So it'd be kind of cool to have that locker the ball and right next to NCAA 14 as a little keepsake.
Yeah, I don't have the 14. The only one I still have is the 2009 Darren McFadden Xbox cover because I've got that one autographed. Yeah, I've got that one signed. So, but hey, that'd be a good keeping spot. Like open up the locker and there's the autograph game right inside of it.
So there we go. Cool. And we're approaching up on, again, halfway point of the summer season. Hooten's book coming out, the unofficial, official start of the high school football season. Dead periods going on right now across where vacations are coming. We're going down to Florida next week over the holidays. So it's almost that time. I mean, look, it's one of them deals, a couple more weeks, and we're talking about SEC Media Days, the upcoming schedule and stuff. So again, one of these times it's good to have this off season where we talk about, other things than just Razorback stuff, that we can really just kind of go off the beaten path. And if there's any kind of topics or hot topics that you want us to discuss, I mean, drop them in the comments, drop them in our DMs, hit us up. What do y'all want us to be talking about? What do y'all want our thoughts on? And, that's what we're kind of doing this show towards. And, it's been fun because it's the first time we've really done it, per se, doing a off season, off the beaten path show. So we're going to continue doing it right up till first kickoff of the first football game. So Adam, you got anything else?
No, just enjoy the night. Hopefully your NBA team's getting some players out of high school or out of college that you like.
Yeah. Where's Bronny go?
Australia. I think he said today, his agent said today that if he doesn't get drafted by the Lakers, he's not showing up and he's going to Australia.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, I don't think they tried to put out some clip that about him going one-on-one against the number 1 draft pick. And it was because I guess the USA team played him in a game, and they were trying to compare points. And it was just like, I think I seen Bronny hit like 3 air balls. Like, it was just one of them things like I've never seen. I mean, maybe Arch Manning, you could put him on that level of, are they're really trying to hype him up. And it's sad because these are stars' kids and stars' family members that are the spotlight on who they are, not necessarily what they did in high school. So, I've never seen somebody, score 3 points a game in college and then end up being a second round draft pick or whatever they're trying to get him to do. But yeah, like you said, he might go down under and play in Australia.
Well, and there was the rumors came out early in the week, maybe late last week, that there was a Saudi Arabia league, their basketball league, offered him $900 million.
I wonder if that's something like what they're doing, like the LIV tour, like, the golf.
It wouldn't surprise me because they've got this league in like a year or two ago, or no, it was earlier, late last year. They had offered James Harden $1 billion for like 4 years, 3 years. And I'm sitting here like, why? Even if that was true, $900 million for 4 years, you live there for 4 months out of the year in a penthouse, untaxed money. Why would you not do it?
Well, I mean, if they need a business guy, a front man, there's one here that just, ended his, company here in Arkansas. So I'm sure he could go over there and give it a shot out over there, So let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
Well, that will do it. And that will do it for this episode of Off Season. We'll come back to you Monday, brought to you by Bet Online, exterior, and goodness gracious. See, I got all tongue tied on my little jab there. And
yeah.
Sterling Soap Studios, Bet Online, and Arkansas Brewing Company. We'll catch you on Monday.